Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to go on and do a cover an article that somebody wrote on the Wired website on some vulnerabilities of the Zoom application that some people are using to replace Google Hangouts and broadcasting to YouTube. Gonna wait a few minutes, see if we can get a few people in here. So everybody hang tight. Hey, Bluegrass Thrift, welcome in. Get over here and get the comments open. How are you? This will probably apply to people that are doing multiple people on a panel. What's up, Jason? Just going to wait a few minutes, wait on some people to get in here before we get started. Just going to cover an article that someone pointed out to me. It may be on Facebook. That's where I saw it. I just wanted to cover this for some people's information. So, what's going on, Tommy? Anissa, how are you? CW Holiday, how are you? We're going to wait just a minute or two. I don't want to have to repeat myself too much, so we'll wait a few seconds and see what happens. But this will primarily affect people, like I said a second ago, that are using Zoom as a platform to broadcast, create a meeting with multiple people, and broadcast to YouTube Live. There is some more information before I start talking about it. We're just going to walk through the article. I don't want anybody to think that this is my information or something that I found. It's not. I want to give full credit, and I'll put links down below in the description, giving full credit to the people that wrote these articles. I've already found it on multiple reputable websites. So how's it going, Tracy? Hope everybody's having a good Friday. This is the article you pointed out to me, Tracy, just a little while ago. I just figured I would do I've read over it once or twice. It's not too alarming for everybody, but I just want to make sure everybody kind of understood it from a technical perspective and things like that. So I definitely appreciate you pointing that out. Thank you. So we'll wait a few more minutes, not a few more minutes, just a little bit, and see if a couple more people join in. Hey, Cherry Picker. And I'm sure there's going to be more videos on this. The article was written only a few days ago. I don't know the person that wrote it. I did not recognize the name, but the site it's on is very reputable. So, yeah, I'm going to trust this. We'll see if anybody else jumps in. Maybe when we get to 12 or 13, we'll go ahead and start. I'm going to try not to go back and cover things after some other people join in. So if you join in after the fact, you're rewatching this, just make sure you check out the whole video, please. So I've only read it a little bit, but it made a little bit of sense, and it's going to, like I said a minute ago, it's limited to people that are using this for YouTube, etc. Not YouTube, but people that are on a certain platform. It's limited to Macs on the Apple, the Mac OS, and it's not something you need to be terribly concerned about. You just need to be aware of it. That's kind of why I wanted to put something out there. Pearl is Precious, welcome in. So we got 14 people, so we'll go ahead and start. Let me go ahead and share my screen. This is a article. This is one of the 2 or 3 articles I've seen that all follow the same information. It's on a site called Wired, which is a pretty popular technical website. I'm going to do my best to watch the chat, but I'm going to try and focus on this article because I only read it once or twice, and I don't want to missay something without reading it. So let me share my screen. So the whole idea is that apparently there's a flaw in the Zoom application when it's in use on a Mac, a MacBook, any Apple product apparently, because Apple's run Zoom a little bit differently. I have not run it on a PC, but on the Mac, it installs an Apple-based or a Mac OS application that it uses, and has some technology behind it that I don't think happens on a Windows machine, a Windows computer. So there's a security flaw that can give a hacker access to your webcam. And if you look at this, it was written on the 9th by this Lily Hay Newman. Lily, if you ever watch this, I definitely appreciate you putting this out. I don't know if you'll end up on this this site or not, but definitely thank you for putting this out, because a lot of people, my concern is there's a lot of, with Google Hangouts going away, that a lot of people are looking for solutions to replace Google Hangouts. And some people may settle on this and not be aware that this is out there, that this issue is out there. So I'm gonna try not to read this verbatim, but apparently they just IPO'd not long ago, which I was not aware of. They point out that this person points out that it is a very simple video conferencing piece of technology, which it is. Anybody that's used it, this and the other ones, like the StreamYards I'm using for this, they're all very easy to use to create a video conferencing call and broadcast it to YouTube. Joining a call is particularly easy with a click of a meeting URL. Exactly. I mean, I think that's what it's drawn a lot of people to these other technologies that are different from OBS. You know, OBS, you can do a lot of stuff. OBS is very process intensive, needs a lot of hardware, and you need to have some knowledge. But this Jonathan, how you pronounce this guy's last name, Leach, however you pronounce his name, discovered that seamlessness comes with a striking set of vulnerabilities for Zoom users on Apple computers. And it says, including one that could let an attacker hijack your webcam. So he goes on to kind of detail what could happen. A hacker could, just like there's a lot of things out there with hackers that are trying to maybe use not clickbait. What's the terminology when they send those phishing emails and things like that? This may be a lot like that, where they could send you a link, somehow you open it up, and it would automatically, add you to the meeting. And this is kind of the vulnerability. By default, when you click on a Zoom URL, your webcam is automatically turned on. And I think that's part of the solution that they offer at the bottom. But it says that he found that attackers could also launch a denial of service attack against Macs by using the same mechanism to overwhelm them with join requests. So a denial of service attack is where an application or a hacker sends a bunch of information to your computer, whether it be your computer you're working on, your server where your website's hosted, things like that, and they're just trying to shut it down by just overbearing it with a lot of requests. And I think that's what they're talking about here. But Zoom patched that in their release in May, it looks like. So that brings up a good point. If you decide to use Zoom for anything, just like any other software, make sure you always keep it up to date, because if you had not seen this and you didn't run your updates for Zoom, you potentially could have been vulnerable. So I think this update in May, they gave you the ability to configure whether your camera was turned on by default or not. And I think the best, just as a security measure, the best thing to do is to just turn it off. It's one more click when you join a meeting, not that big of a deal. If you create your own meeting, to broadcast onto YouTube, just be sure it's just one more click to turn your cam on, your webcam on. That it's not turned on by default. What does it say here? He says the new fix is not enough to address the user privacy concerns or the underlying insecurity of the flow that allows Zoom to launch calls from meeting URLs so smoothly. Yeah, that's a good one. I think they made it this way because they're trying to make this application so user friendly that they don't want you to have to click once or twice. They want you to be able to just click one thing and boom, you're in a meeting and you're done. But like he said, like the author said, with ease of use sometimes comes vulnerabilities because you're eliminating some of the critical security pieces in some situations. And I hope y'all are seeing my screen okay with this year. I tried to make it big enough where everybody could read it. And I apologize again. I'm gonna try and watch the chat, but I'm trying to concentrate on this and give you the best information I can of the way that I'm interpreting this. Again, don't take this as gold, that this is the exact way, but I'm doing the best I can to interpret what the author's saying in the article. Without the user giving any explicit consent or taking any explicit action, that would be instantly dropped into a Zoom meeting, which is what we were just talking about. And that's what could happen with a malicious Zoom call attack. By default, Zoom shows video but doesn't send audio, which is good. Both settings are changeable. So depending on their video and audio settings, video victims would potentially be immediately broadcasting themselves, perhaps even without their knowledge. So if you had any other kind of malware on your computer, malware is stuff that gets injected on your computer from some websites. You can get it by clicking on an image that's attached to your email, things like that. So apparently he published, this person, how you pronounce this guy's last name, published some proof of concept links. And I don't think they're in any of the articles. I'm sure they could be found out there, but obviously I don't think anybody really wants to do that. What does it say? Click on them, you automatically join a call. Since Zoom hasn't issued the update meant to address this yet, the demo still very much works. So it just goes back over the vulnerability stems from their conscious choice to make it easy to use, I think, to reduce friction. A lot of the older video chat applications, you click 4 or 5 times, you had to confirm some information, which in my mind, that's not bad things. You're consciously making a decision that you want to turn your camera on, you want to turn your mic on, you want to do this, you want to do that, So what else does it say? So here's where it starts talking about the Mac side, and it's going to be a little technical here. I'll try and explain it the best I can. So on a Mac, in the Mac OS, Zoom sets up a local web server. A web server is the software that serves a website to a viewer. So a website is not just a file that sits out there on a computer, and when somebody goes to www.landsharkpicker.com, it opens up that file. There's a bunch of technology that runs behind it that says, okay, viewer number 1 is requesting landsharkpicker.com. This process over here does a little bit of work, and it says, okay, let me send that information. All that work that goes on in the background that prepares that web page for that viewer is called a web server. And by default, a Windows computer doesn't have one. By default, a Mac computer does not have one. You can set them up, you can add them, you can do development on a Mac computer where you want to test a web application. And you can start up your own web server, but by default they're not there. For the average user, there's no use. But apparently Zoom sets up a local web server on every Mac that it gets installed on to automatically launch the desktop app. They're using that kind of as a go-between to make it easier. It's just a piece of technology that gives you that seamless integration, like they're talking about, of being able to click a link and immediately go in. And apparently they add it to work around a feature of Safari, which is the browser on the Mac that will require users to approve Zoom launching every time they click a call link. And that could be the whole idea. I know sometimes when you click into sites that use your webcam, like Zoom, like StreamYard, like other ones, it asks you, do you want to turn your webcam on? Hangouts did that. And I think they're trying to get around that by doing this. They're automatically saying, okay, by installing Zoom, you're consenting that you want your camera to turn on. So that's what they were doing. So they say, although the workaround is there to deal with the Safari feature, the same setup applies no matter which browser you launch Zoom from. So if I go to Zoom, inside of Chrome, it's going to act the same way. So it's not, the problem is not specific to a browser, it sounds like. You can have your default browser set to Chrome or Safari or Firefox. It doesn't matter. If you get that link in an email, a Facebook message, it doesn't matter. So Zoom doesn't offer this same frictionless, is what they're calling the experience, on Windows. So anybody that's running Windows, it sounds like you probably don't have to worry about this from a broadcasting perspective or a meeting perspective. But there's a box you can check to permanently dismiss the prompts and start video automatically, which would put you in the same situation. So if you've already told it that anytime you join a meeting that you want to start your video automatically on a Windows machine, you could potentially have the same problem. So it just goes on to say the local web server enables users to avoid this extra click before joining every meeting. So they think that is a legitimate solution to a poor user experience. A poor user experience is where, a user's trying to use something, they're not happy, it's too many clicks. It's things like that. We're not alone among video conferencing providers implementing this solution. Let's see what else. The Safari feature does add an extra step for users by circumventing that step. Zoom potentially exposes its users to strangers ogling them online, which demonstrates the need for that extra layer of permission in the first place. Exactly. I would assume that potentially this could have a situation where somebody hacks your computer, or you get some spyware, adware, malware, and they could automatically start up a Zoom meeting on your computer. That's why it's important to always run your updates on your computer. Make sure you have something. I use Malwarebytes, but there's a lot of different malware, adware, spyware, virus stuff. There's a lot of free virus, antivirus, anti-malware, all those applications out there. So always keep that stuff up to date, because with a virus or something and this vulnerability as well, that's two pretty lethal combinations. If you've got your camera pointing in a different area of your house, different area of your room, you definitely wouldn't want somebody turning that on. Further on down, I think they give us a good solution. So let me read a little bit. He points out that the local web server persists on your Mac, even if you uninstall the Zoom desktop app. When they say persist, that means it's always there. It's not going to go away. I need to look into how I've got Zoom installed on my computer. I am on a MacBook. I need to find out how to get it removed. I'm sure there's going to be some information on that. If I find it, I'll put the link in the description below on how to uninstall it. If you ever click a Zoom call link again, the program will quickly download and reinstall itself automatically through the web server. So that little piece of software is there and active, it sounds like. And then I really like this point that he makes right here. Having an installed app that is running a web server on my local machine with a totally undocumented API, and I'm sure a lot of y'all have heard that term. And I know I've mentioned it before. Other people talk about the Amazon API or the eBay API or things like that. API is application programming interface. It's pieces of code that allow other programmers to pull information or send information to the website or the application interfacing with. He says, having an installed app that is running a web server on my local machine with a totally undocumented API feels incredibly sketchy to me. Well, yeah, I think I agree. And I don't think, I'm trying to think back when I installed Zoom, I don't remember getting prompted or being told that that it was going to install this web server. If anybody else has installed Zoom on a Mac, do you know if you've seen that? I don't remember seeing it at all. So yeah, that is odd. A lot of people don't think about technology things behind the scenes, but in this case, it's kind of important to have that understanding. Sorry. Let's see. He wrote in his report noting that he combed the web for details about the application programming interface for this feature and couldn't find anything. And again, that sounds sketchy. A lot of software companies don't publish the information about their APIs, their integration points, but they may only be used for internal use. They may have a desktop application that has an API that communicates back to their servers. He couldn't find anything. The fact that any website that I can visit can interact with this web server running on my machine is a huge red flag to me. So if you go out to a website that happens to be hacked, and you've got this web server sitting on your computer that probably has a lot of control over your computer, probably more so than you would want it to, that website could say, okay, run this code against this web server on this computer. It would have to be something that was written specifically to attack Zoom. And the way hackers work is there's hackers out there that just do it just for the knowledge, just for the fun. They're not trying to do things that are dangerous and destructive. But once they find out that you've got a specific application, using WordPress, for example, a lot of websites are built on WordPress. I do website development. I build sites in WordPress. My sites get hit constantly because hackers out there are constantly looking at websites, and if they go to any given website, they can tell whether it's working on WordPress. Well, once they find out, they can easily find that out. Anybody can find out what software a site's using. As soon as they find out it's running WordPress, they're going to find out what version of WordPress it's running, and then they've got a known list of vulnerabilities for WordPress. So they're going to start attacking each one of those, trying to get in. So, like I said earlier, some of them may just be doing it for the fun to say, I hacked it, I did it. Some of them may be going in there to take over your website and cause trouble. Same kind of thing here. If Zoom has a vulnerability, they're going to have a way to find out that your computer has Zoom on it, or by watching a YouTube video potentially, and they're going to start trying to attack you. Maybe not your computer, but trying to attack your. I don't know if you can do it through YouTube or what, but when people see these kind of things going on, the hackers, they're going to start attacking things like this. So it's important, if you're going to use this, I would suggest following these steps they talk about in just a second. Let's see. Zoom has added a cryptographic signing mechanism. Wow, that's a big word. That just means every time something communicates with the local web server, which was the piece of software that we were talking about, by adding that is securing it. But this guy, with very little work, has already found a way to get around it. This guy says it's a very disturbing set of bugs, but unsurprising given any other Zoom issues I've observed and reported in the past. So apparently this guy knows Zoom very well. I assume, like I said, I don't know this guy's name, but he's providing very good information. He must be a technical person. Obviously, like I said, everything on this Wired site is typically technical based. Let's see what it says. So this is beyond any other issues he's found. And there's a whole market for people that go out there and try and find bugs and things like that, vulnerabilities with software like this. Some companies actually offer money. They have created contests, and they'll get all these coders, these white hat coders, people that are coding, that are hackers, but on the good side. And they will give out prizes for whoever finds the biggest, the best, the baddest, vulnerability in their software, because they want to fix it. So he said the local web server is honestly the most concerning part, and it's not fixed. So this is another guy, Thomas Reed, a Mac research specialist at the security firm Malware. Yes, Malware is the one I was talking about. Malware is unwanted software on your computer. Could be a lot of people knew them back in the day as pop-ups and things like that. That was typically what they would do. But Malware will scan your computer, and if you're using any computer, Windows or Mac, I would get Malware and scan your computer. It's great. It'll find the smallest vulnerability, the smallest pieces of software out there that you may not know that are there. So you just got to be careful. Says the web server is concerning because of the possibilities that someone could find a way to use it remotely to trigger remote code execution. That means if it's running on your computer, and say you're connected to a free Wi-Fi in an airport or a McDonald's, when you do that, you got to be careful, because there's people, there's always hackers out there, and they could see that you're connected and you're using a laptop, and they could run a scan and say, oh wait, there's a web server, this software we're talking about running on this computer, and I can see it. And if they're going to go to that point, they're going to start attacking, like I was talking about with WordPress. And I'll try and move through this last little bit quicker. I'm sorry, I got long-winded. Let's see. He points out that researchers at the security exposure assessment firm Tenable, which I've not heard of, recently discovered such a remote code execution bug in Zoom that could have been combined with these new findings to attack not just Zoom, but a user's broader Mac system. So it sounds like it's potentially a larger vulnerability. And again, I'm not telling people not to use Zoom here. I've got the pro account. I've just started using it. I just want to make sure that if you're using it, that you're reading, understanding some of this, maybe not down to the level we've talked about, but understand what you need to do to protect yourself. So it sounds like, these two combinations are not good, and this guy's already identified it. Apparently Zoom has patched the Tenable vulnerability that they were talking about, so that's good. The Zoom's vulnerability is especially concerning and downright creepy because it doesn't require a user to be on a Zoom call. Now that's scary. That's really scary. You hadn't even clicked on a link. The Zoom app, I didn't get an idea of. The remote execution bug is where somebody would run something. You don't even see them on your computer clicking on something or doing anything. They would just inject something into your computer that would run on that web server through multiple possible vulnerabilities. So So as it says, the Zoom flaw I found last year would allow an attacker to invoke keystrokes on remote machines, even without being a meeting attendee. So they're sending something to that web server that says, okay, maybe they send it and they say, okay, at 3 o'clock in the morning when nobody's using the computer and I'm not here, start doing this. So hackers are smart. They can do a lot of stuff. And like I said earlier, some of them are doing it just to do it. Some of them are doing it to gather bank account information, things like that. Combining both vulnerabilities and a targeted attack would be extremely dangerous. So that, at that point, they could theoretically gain full control over your computer. And again, not trying to scare people, but just trying to read this. And Zoom won't fully issue a patch here. Instead, to address the auto join video feeds feature, and this is where he starts talking about the steps that you potentially should use to protect yourself. Zoom is adding a tweak in the upcoming update that will use the setting people chose in their first ever Zoom call as the default for future calls. So if you, and I think he goes on to talk about it, but if you set this, and I think it's not just the first ever, but I think you can go, I think he says in a minute that you can go in and set this. So as long as you go in and set that you don't want your video to start automatically, then that's going to help you at least with that video part. If you decide in your first call that you want to manually add video each time, that will be the default for every call thereafter. So, manually adding video, definitely a good idea in my opinion. Like I said earlier, please don't take this as gold. This is just my interpretation, the way I'm reading this. In the current version of Zoom, you can add similar protection for yourself by going to Settings, Preferences, Video, Meetings, Turn off my video when joining a meeting. Which again, all it does is takes you 1 or 2 extra clicks to add your video to a meeting. He told this guy that did the research told Zoom on March 26th, the company had 90 days, which is a standard deadline for an information security, to fix the issues. Kind of hard to believe that this guy who is some kind of consultant, security consultant, is, putting demands on Zoom. And it gets a little bit interesting here in the next little bit, and we're almost done. That he's telling them they got 90 days to fix the problem. I don't know if that was 90 days before he released an article or what. But here's what I was talking about earlier. He declined to join Zoom's private bug bounty program. The bug bounty program is what I was talking about earlier, where companies get hackers, or not hackers, white hat hackers, programmers, people like that, to join these programs to identify bugs and flaws like this. He declined to join it because apparently they have a non-disclosure agreement that if you find a bug that you don't go public with it, etc. So I don't know what the timing of all that was, but this guy must be pretty smart. So Zoom now says it's going to launch a public bug bounty in the next few weeks. And I guess this is as of, he said this on March 26th, but this article was written earlier this week. We acknowledge that our website currently doesn't provide clear information for security concerns. Yeah. If it did, then you would find information on this, etc. Here, another step for now, make sure your Zoom is up to date and change your video settings to block auto joining. The situation is an important reminder, though, that given the choice between protecting security and privacy and prioritizing convenience, which is what we were talking about earlier, they made it this way so it would be convenient for users. Again, sorry for not watching the chat. So this is right here at the end. The situation is an important reminder, though, that given the choice between protecting security and privacy and prioritizing convenience, Zoom unabashedly chose convenience, and apparently they will continue to do so. So again, I'm not intending on bash. I'm not, the purpose of this is not to bash Zoom. Zoom is a great application. Just need to make sure that people were aware of these type situations. Please don't take this wrong. Sometimes the average user isn't going to understand some of this sometimes, and it's important to know. Anybody that uses a Mac and you're going to use Zoom, have you gone out and done this research? Have you seen this? I know, not that I'm highly technical, but I've got pretty good technical knowledge, and I hadn't gone out and looked at it. I should have. I think it's important when you pick up these new applications to replace technology that you do research. You do your due diligence to see if it's a good solution. So just wanted to put this out there. I don't think there's many videos out there on it yet. Again, I don't claim to have written any of this information. I'm going to give full credit to this the guy that wrote this article on Wired. Here is the link to the story that we used. It's on wired.com/story/zoom-bug-webcam-hackers. Where else did I find it? I closed them up. But if you Google, if you want to do any more research, you can Google Zoom webcam hack or webcam hackers, I think is how I found it. There's a couple of websites. They're all relatively new. So this is a new development. Let me go over and check the chat. And again, I apologize for not watching the chat. Let me go back to the beginning real quick. Said hey to some people. Cherry Picker, welcome in. I appreciate y'all hanging out. And I didn't do this to scare people. I just felt like I needed to make sure that everybody was at least exposed to it and potentially had an understanding of it. Just me, Kathy. I'm glad you stopped by. Thank you. Lisa, yeah. Well, Lisa said they would see 10 seconds of me and my webcam and immediately turn it off. No, definitely not. But even if you, I misread that. I thought you said you would turn it off. Based on what we read, they could potentially have turned it on without you even being in a meeting. Gate City Picker, welcome. I appreciate you stopping by. Same thing was happening with the WhatsApp. That's a very popular. I've never used WhatsApp with video. I don't know if they provide that or not, but I am somewhat familiar with the WhatsApp application. But that's good to know. Apparently, it's a common theme then. If multiple companies are going through this same deal. So Cletus needs to get a Mac. No, Cletus needs to get a Big Mac. Let's see what else. In it to flip it a black screen on a Samsung phone, I can hear you, but no picture. I hope everybody saw my picture. See what else. The crazy card, yes, not a bad practice. Mike says, and everyone thinks I'm crazy because I have a piece of tape covering my camera. Probably not a bad step. Some of the things I've done in the past, you can take like an index card, fold it over, and just sit it over the top. If your web camera sits, I'm using one that's built into my MacBook. You want to use it, just take that, folded index card off. If somebody was able to connect to your camera like that, then they would just see the backside of the index card. Exactly. TW Holiday was thinking the same thing. If Cletus got a Mac, he would just put cheese on it. Sorry, just want to make sure I don't miss anything that anybody was asking. Lisa says she small bit of Post-it notes, so that's good. Anything you can do like that. Both of our Kathy says both of our Macs have tape over the camera. Cherry Picker. If people won't see me, that is up to them. I got nothing to hide. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, I have seen that too. Lisa says that some of the newer webcams, I don't know if they do them on laptops or not, but they have a little a slide that you can do to cover it up. I'm glad they started doing that. Yeah, that would be funny, Lisa. Yeah, definitely, Lisa. Lisa's got a technical background, so yeah, it's getting to the point. And the big advantage to Macs originally were that they weren't vulnerable to viruses and things like that. I believe they really started becoming a little more vulnerable once they went to the Intel architecture, the Intel processors, which Intel is what Windows computers. You got Intel, AMD on the Windows side. When Macs started using Intel processors, I think is when they introduced a lot more vulnerabilities, in my opinion. Wonder if I can get some TW. Yeah, as long as they peak for 4,000 hours a year, you'll be in good shape. Yeah, I mean that's not a bad step, definitely. What's going on, Derek? But who cares if they see me as the wrong answer? Yeah, you never know. Uh, yeah, I mean, there's risk here. I think it's something you can manage based on what we read in the article. There's something you could definitely apply. Um, in my opinion, and again, just like I talk about on our morning shows, just because I do something doesn't mean that it's right or what everybody should do. I probably won't be using Zoom at all. I'll find a way to uninstall the web server that it installs, and I'm gonna use Streamlabs. I signed up for the first month at a reduced rate, and my decision is to just use something else. And I'd already kind of made that decision before I even saw this, because Zoom, and again, this is not, I'm not here to bash Zoom, and not at all. That's not my intention. I just want to provide information to people about this. The one negative I found with Zoom, well, before I go into the negative, one big positive with Zoom is it has great video quality. Very good. I think it's far superior to any of the solutions I've looked at. Hangouts, StreamYard, everything. One of the negatives I found is you cannot connect it to a pre-scheduled YouTube live event. So if I, using our morning show that we do every morning, 9 o'clock Central Time in the morning, I pre-schedule those with a thumbnail and the title so they can sit out there and people can see them. With Zoom, I can't connect to that. Every time you use Zoom to stream, it creates a whole new stream. With StreamYard, you can connect to that pre-scheduled event, which is cool, and that's why I like StreamYard. Hey, Glenn, I don't know if you're still here, but hey, thanks for stopping in. The cherry picker, Google Hangouts is gone at the end of the month. Zoom is potentially not safe. Potentially, it depends on your comfort level and what the amount of risk you're willing to take. Again, not trying to tell people not to use it. Again, you just need to, read and understand and go from there. My decision is not to use it. I'm going to use StreamYard. I think a lot of content creators are going to be doing this or moving in that direction. And I'll leave a link down in the description for StreamYard for anybody that wants to sign up for it. I do have a referral code that would help support the channel. I think ultimately it's like $20 a month. With the $20 a month plan, you can remove the little duck. You can do some other stuff that's pretty cool. But I will put a referral link down in the bottom. And if you click on that and use it, I would greatly appreciate it. I'm not saying you have to, but if you decide to, thank you. Yes, Wired is usually very reputable. I agree. There were some other sites that were a little bit smaller and low key. That's why I chose this one. The others are reputable, but they weren't quite as reputable as Wired. Yeah, I hope everything's going okay down there, Swamp. I know y'all getting hit with some bad weather. What else? Swag Maven, thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I agree, Lisa. And if these people aren't in here, I apologize. I wasn't able to watch the chat, but I feel like I need to respond to people. Seems like Zoom should be warning users too. I agree. But just because we think they should doesn't mean they will. And that's, again, not a bash on Zoom. That's a generalized statement that sometimes software companies won't do that. They're in it for the money and the money only. And if there's a flaw identified, they're not going to broadcast it out there. Not all of them are that way. Some are. That's good. Good to hear that things are going okay for right now, Glenn. Be thinking about you. I hope everything, y'all stay safe for sure. So I mean, any website or software is at risk for hackers. Doesn't matter what you use. Yep, exactly. Let's see what else. I'm almost to the bottom. And if y'all won't have any questions, I don't mind trying to answer. Even if I was using on a Windows machine, I wouldn't do it too. I would do it too, yes. And Tracy, yeah, and again, Tracy, thank you for sending that link to me. I appreciate it. I may not have been spot on with everything, but I did my best to interpret what they were the writer was trying to say, and potentially trying to break it down, the best I could. And if I didn't do a very good job, please feel free to leave me a comment or say something here. Borderline Kim, hit me up on Facebook, or you can go back and watch this. I'll do my best to explain it, but we've been going for about 40 minutes now. I think we spent about 30 minutes talking about the article. App disclaimers. Yeah, so many people don't And I know I've been working in IT and I've been working with applications for so long, 20, 25 years. And it gets to the point when you install something, you know, if they give you an agreement, everything, typically 90% of the time you scroll by it and click OK or go because you just want to get something installed. I know I'm guilty of that sometimes. So this brings up a lot of good points. You just need to be, kind of pay attention to what you're doing. Obviously, when Zoom has been out for a good little while, this vulnerability wasn't identified. So I just felt like I needed to offer up as much information as I could. And this, they tune into my house and run like hell. Yeah. What else? You've been there. Zoom says I won't use it anymore either. My computer went on the fritz after Zoom the other day. I hope everything's okay. Reach out to me. I'll do what I can to help you. I can't promise you I can fix everything if there's a problem, but I will do what I can to assist. So feel free to reach out. Definitely, Lisa. Lisa's brought some very good points. Let me show this real quick. This is why you should really read the terms of service for any applications you use. They usually disclose what access to your machine you're granting. And I think, like I said a minute ago, I know I'm guilty of it. So it's hard for me to say you should be doing this. But like I said a minute ago, when you're installing something, you're installing an application because you want to use it. Most people don't go out there and just click install, click, and let me just go grab some random applications and install them. Typically, you're installing something because you need to use that functionality. And I think our minds, I know mine does. I get in a hurry. Oh, I've got to try out this Zoom application. Let me do it. Let me just click, 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 and it starts installing and it's done. And sometimes you don't think about the consequences. Obviously, you can't overthink it, and you probably wouldn't have known this, but it may have outlined, hey, we're going to install a local web server, which wouldn't mean a lot to the average person, but you don't know. Just be careful. No problem, Cherry Picker. I appreciate not a problem. I appreciate you coming in and asking the question. Lisa, you're a wealth of knowledge. I've not used a few programs because of what I read in the terms of service and user agreements. Yep, definitely. We're almost at the bottom. Thank you, Nissa. I appreciate that. How many more likes? Get as many as we can. And if that subscribe little box down there below my video is red, red is bad, gray is good. So I think most everybody I saw in the chat at least is hopefully subscribed. If you're not, go ahead and turn that box to gray. Gray is good. But any other questions or anything? I appreciate everybody coming in. Y'all share out this video because I'm sure there's a lot of content creators out there that are considering using Zoom. I was one of those people. And again, Tracy, I've said it twice, and I'm going to say it a third time. Thank you. Because I had not done a bunch of research. I had messed around with Zoom. Excuse me. And it worked good. And I definitely appreciate you reaching out and sending that to me. So, Lisa, I've used computer sense punch cards. All right, I got to go off on a tangent for 2 seconds here. I sold a punch card machine about 1.5 years ago. It was so cool. I paid $10 for it. I got it in the thrift store. It was in the carrying case, the black leather looking carrying case. I don't remember who made it. I think I'll go to my, I'll put a link in this. I've got another channel that I use to put my electronics demonstration videos for my listings, and it was really cool. I think I got $100 or $120 for it, and it went somewhere overseas. But it had unused punch cards in it, had the little old style keyboard or typewriter style keys. It was really neat. It was fully functional. It was really cool. I paid $10 for it up in North Alabama. If there's not any more questions, I'll give everybody one last second to ask any questions. Like I said, I have not put the link down in the description yet. I'll do that if you want to read further. You can also Google, like I said, Zoom webcam hack. And again, like I said earlier, I'm not trying to scare people. Just felt like I needed to provide, information as I could. So there's no more questions or comments or anything. I definitely appreciate y'all hanging out. Went a little bit longer than I wanted to. Was just wanted to make sure I read through this and did my best to interpret it. So if that's it, I hope everybody has a good afternoon, has a good weekend. I'd love to see it. Lisa, I think you follow me on Instagram. I will post a picture of it on my Instagram. It was a very cool find. The people had no clue. It was a little small I hate to use the word mom and pop because it wasn't mom and pop. It was in a smaller city, smaller town. It was a very nice building, very nice place. It was privately owned. And I picked it when I saw it. I'm like, I opened it. Was sitting up on an upper shelf, black leather looking case, that you would just open up. And it caught my eye. And that's what I always tell people when I talk about sourcing is if something catches your eye, grab it and look at it. And I pulled it down off the shelf, set it on the edge of my buggy, opened it up, and as soon as I saw it, I knew what it was. And punch cards were they're pretty old. Punch cards have not been used in a long time. So I know this thing is old. There's no price on it. These people don't have a clue what it is. Took it up the front. I said, how much is this? They said, I don't know. I said, well, just give me a price and we'll start. They said $10. I said, done. It was cool. But thanks for asking about that. That's cool. But hope everybody has a great day. And truthfully, it went somewhere overseas, I think. I'll take the picture off of the eBay listing, and I'll see if I can find it, find the details. It went somewhere. But I definitely appreciate everybody spending almost an hour with me. Hopefully this was helpful. If it was helpful, please click the thumbs up and go ahead and share it, please. Because I know a lot of us are connected to content creators, and some content creators that are considering Zoom need to be aware of this, especially if they're using a Mac computer. Even those that aren't, it's the same situation with users that are just joining Zoom meeting. So share this out if you don't mind. I would greatly appreciate it. And hope everybody has a great day. Thanks.